The Louie T Network is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description.
Who else could it be? For me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to the Command Post Live. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. I, of course, am your commander-in-chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. So, a few things have taken place today, in case you haven't been paying attention. So, tonight will be sort of a smorgasbord type of episode. The rookies have arrived for rookie minis. So, that will start, I believe, tomorrow. I think they just got there today. So, it'll officially begin, I think, tomorrow. Today might have been the first day, but didn't look like they got into too much today, right? But jersey numbers were handed out for the rookies. So we'll discuss that a little bit. Eric Stokes, Senior Director of Player Personnel, relieved of his duties, will not be brought back. So some interior decorating still being done. They're not quite done yet with the interior design. I didn't think they would be, right? We saw this before, and, you know, I've been a fan of the NFL for a very long time, so I'm very aware of how these things work. And a lot of you are as well. And if you were paying attention the first time around when Ronald Rivera showed up, he did the exact same thing. And it's common practice in the NFL because when you first get there as a staff, it's impossible for you to come in and say late in early January, late February, depending on when you get there, and turn over an entire staff, front office, if you will, scouts included, that have been working nonstop, tirelessly since the last draft to prepare you for this draft, and the draft is in 3 months. You can't get rid of everybody and start anew and have everything ready in 3 months. So you let everybody continue to do their jobs, and, you know, you kind of assess everybody, see who's doing a good job, who you think can remain with the staff that you've put together, and then you move on from everyone else, and you get the rest of the guys that you think are, you know, suitable for the job or are ready for the actual title of that position, and you give those guys an opportunity, right? So this was not a surprise that they moved on from Eric Stokes. And, you know, I said this a while ago. I like Eric Stokes as a person, but as an evaluator, remember, he was a huge part of the Commander's log last year. I think it was episode 3 last year, where they were at the combine and they were, you know, talking about the prospects, and he was a huge part of that episode. And we really got to know him a bit last year because he also had a press conference last year, if you recall. And he talked glowingly about Emmanuel Forbes. This was after they selected Emmanuel Forbes, if I'm not mistaken. And in the documentary, in the series, rather, I think he talked about Forbes as well. But he talked about, you know, the job and what it entails and, you know, what they look for in players and this, that, and the third. And he was gushing about Emmanuel Forbes, and we all remember the video. And I think this was episode maybe 4 last year. Might have still been 3. I think it was 4, though. I think they were separate episodes. I think the Combine was one episode, just like it was this year. And then the next episode was the draft episode. And that was the one where he goes over to Martin Mayhew and he whispers to him, "Hey, Gonzalez and Forbes are on the board. Who you taking?" And Martin Mayhew looks up at him like, "Bro, I know who's on the board. I'm looking. I'm watching." He's like, "I say we go with Forbes." And Mayhew looks up like, "Yeah, that's what I'm going to do." And I'm like, you are both clowns, right? And Stokes has been here for all 4 years of Rivera. And I think he might have even been here previous to that as a scout. So it was his time to go. You know, too many mistakes have been made over the last 4 years with guys that they've drafted for him to not be on the hook. Too many free agent moves that haven't worked. And he's a part of all of that. He's got his hand in all of that. He's not on the college side of pro scouting or the college side of scouting. He's not on the pro side of scouting. He's senior director of player personnel, meaning he's got his hand in some of everything. So he needed to go. And Chris Polian, he can carry his ass too. I think he's on the pro side of things. He can go, right? We've had a number of mistakes on that side of the front office over the years. He can go too. Like, I'm tied to none of these guys. If Martin Mayhew weren't chums with Adam Peters, his ass would have been gone along with Marty Herney when they got rid of Marty Herney. He'd have been gone too. But since they're boys, he's going to keep a job. Whatever title they decide to give him, I forgot. They've already given him one. He's going to be here. He shouldn't be, but he is. But the rest of these clowns can go. So I'm good with them going on and doing, what they've done here. And I wouldn't be shocked if they're not done. If more guys are not re-signed, not brought back, or, flat out released, and they bring in more guys that they feel like are more suited for the job. But anyway, I digress. So the numbers have been handed out, or rather selected by the rookies. They were really choosing from table scraps. If you looked at the jersey numbers that were available, there weren't many numbers to be had. We talked about this, had this discussion already. And what you'll find is when we take a look at these numbers, they're getting numbers that were, being occupied and used last year. And so you're going to have to retrain your eyes and rewire your brain to looking at those numbers and not thinking about players that wore them previously. Because, like, for instance, 95, who is that synonymous with? Who has that been synonymous with over the last 2 or 3 seasons, right? Let that one sink in for a second. Who wore 12 last year, right? I saw a number, and I'm not going to lie to you. Yeah, Scratch More Fortune says 2 Hills bum ass. Yeah, he's been 95 the last couple of years, right? So you got to rewire your brain to not look for that whack ass Gritty in 95 anymore. So I'm not going to front. I saw one number in particular, and I went, uh-oh. I was like, uh-oh, wait a minute. That's not a good sign. I said, you were just talking shit about De'Ami Brown not being cut, right? And then I see Mikey Sainristil donning the number 2. Now, this time of the year, you're going to get a number of overlaps. You got 90 guys on the roster. Of course, there's going to be overlappage, okay? For one, there aren't 90 numbers available to the players that you have in here because a receiver isn't going to be wearing 78, right? He can only wear from 0 to 19 and then from 80 to 89, right? So it's not like a receiver can walk around wearing 94. So there's only a certain amount of numbers that you have. Same thing with defensive back. Same thing with, pick a position. There's only a certain amount of numbers that they can wear. So when you got 90 guys coming to camp, there's going to be some overlappage. Just like in college football, you got all those dudes on the roster. There's going to be a guy on offense that wears number 4, and then there could be a guy on defense that wears number 4. You just got to be paying attention and don't confuse the two. So when I see Mikey Sainristil rolling up with Deuce, I'm like, wait a minute. What are we doing here? Hey, woohoo. Somebody's already wearing number 2. Pick another jersey. And they was like, is somebody wearing number 2? I'm like, But at the bottom of the tweet that they put out and the post that they put out, it says, hey, these numbers are subject to change. And I talked about that already. These numbers are subject to change when they start cutting guys, numbers will open up, and then you'll see one of these rookies kind of change to a different number. But anyway, I digress. Let's get to a couple of topics that I want to address and talk about those for a second. So, as you can see, we've got our draft class numbers in front of us. So as I mentioned, Mikey Sainristil is wearing number 2. And as you see at the bottom, there's, first of all, next to his name, there's an asterisk. If you look at what that asterisk indicates, it says Sainristil's number is a roster duplicate, which we know that is De'Ami Brown's number. All numbers are subject to change, which we know, right? Even the guys who have picked a number, somebody could get cut from the roster and Ben Sinnott could say, you know what? Right now, Cole Turner's wearing 85. I want 85. Cole Turner gets cut. He switches to 85 from 82, right? That could happen. So I can assure you that Dominique Hampton doesn't want to wear 45. I'll bet any amount of money that Dominique Hampton does not want to wear 45. And the minute that guys that are in the 30s and 20s get cut, he will snatch up one of those numbers with the quickness, okay? So Sainristil is 2 for now. De'Ami's not going anywhere. De'Ami's making this roster. Sainristil will get a number in the 20s. Like, I was sizing up one of these bums. I want to say it was James Pierre who's wearing 29, Kendall Fuller's old number. I'm like, bro, you got to come off that 29, bro. Sorry, not sorry. You got to give me the 29, bro. Don't make me take it off your back. I'm going to put Mikey in 29. All right. So the last time we had an elite nickel, he was 29. I'm going and snatching off the 29 off of James Pierre's back, and I'm giving it to Mikey Sainristil. So it's only a matter of time before Sainristil is relocated to 29. But for now, he's rocking the deuce and sharing it with De'Ami. Jaden Daniels, I know you guys saw the video that Tressway put out. Shout out to everybody who sent it to me. We all saw the picture. I actually have the picture also posted on my thumbnail for this particular video of those two holding the number 5 Daniels jersey. So we knew Tress he's a great sport. He's a class act, and we knew that Tress is a team guy, and he wasn't going to fight this thing. I don't know if there was any monetary gain here, any cash exchanged hands with this jersey number. I mean, Jaden Daniels hasn't signed his contract yet, so I doubt that anything has been done yet, but maybe something will. And Tress strikes me as a charity guy, like, hey, I need you to donate to my favorite charity type of guy, not to put it in my pocket necessarily. I heard a nasty story like a week or two ago with Cam Newton, where he got to Carolina his first year. Jimmy Clausen, if you remember, Cam Newton was not number 1. He was number 2 in college. That was his number of choice. He got to Carolina. He went to Jimmy Clausen, and Jimmy was like, yeah, I'll break you. I'll give you this number, but you got to pay me. I think it was $1 million, a cool $1 million or some shit like that. Jimmy was wilding. Cam was like, oh, bet. Nah. All right. Not only am I not going to pay you for the number 2, I'm going to make sure you never work again in this town. And pretty much she put him out of commission, and Jimmy Clausen, not too long thereafter, was out of the league. But I digress. Jaden Daniels is 5. We knew he was going to be 5, and Tressway is the man. And we won't forget his contribution to all of this. And I don't know what number he's going to adopt next, but I'm pretty sure those jerseys will sell just as well as the 5 jersey did, right? So Jaden Daniels continues to be JD5, which is the right thing. Luke McCaffrey is going to wear 12. Last year, Jacoby Brissett was 12. So you're going to have to rewire your brain there to start seeing that number in a new light. As I mentioned already, 45 is nasty work for a safety, boy. That we can't have safeties wearing a number in the 40s, really. 20s and 30s only. Like, you get into the 40s as a safety, and again, Find me a safety that's any good in the league right now wearing 40 anything. The last good defensive back that I think wore a 40 number, yikes. I'm thinking of Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie when he was 45. I think he was 45 back when he was with the Cardinals or the Giants. I mean, I might be missing somebody, but boy, that's a nasty number, boy. 45 for a safety? That's a linebacker number. That's a tight end number. That's a fullback number. So he's coming up out of that eventually once we see some guys end up on the chopping block. But for the time being, don't get comfortable and don't train your brain to learn who 45 is because he's not staying there. McGee is 58. That's a tough one for me because wasn't Shaka Toney 58? If I'm not, and I know he wasn't here last year, but that's the last player I remember in 58. If I'm not mistaken, I could be tripping, and Shaka Toney could have been a different number. I felt like he was 58. 58 seems like a pass rusher number to me. I don't know why. I don't even know who else wore 58. Yeah. I mean, it could be a linebacker number, clearly, and it is a linebacker number, but it's one I'm going to have to get used to. Coleman donning 74. I'm cool with that. Who was the last 74 here? The number, the guy that keeps coming to my mind, and I know there's been plenty of 74 since then. There has to have been, but I keep thinking of Stephon Hire as 74. You know, there's just certain guys that stick out with certain jersey numbers that you just can't get. You can't erase out of your memory bank, right? It's etched into your memory. 74 and Stephon Hire, for some reason, those two are synonymous. So hopefully he erases that shit because that was disgusting, and turns 74 into a number that we look at with reverence, right? And hold in high regard. Ben Sinnott, 82. Obviously, that for the last 4 years was Logan Thomas. So that's going to get some getting used to. That's going to get some that's going to take some getting used to, excuse me. I was expecting him to go into the 40s. For some reason, I guess because we all looked at him as a Chris Cooley type. I just assumed he was going to try to go somewhere in the 40s, but he's doing the right thing. Yeah, you know. Anyway, John Baptiste is 90. That's Montez Sweat's number, and he's not making the team, so I'm not getting comfortable. I'm not even tripping. And then Johnny Newton is 95. As I mentioned already, Casey Toohill was rocking that number for the last 2 or 3 years. And before that, it was Deron Payne in his rookie season wearing 95. So I don't think it'll take me that long to get used to seeing him in that number. But I'm just glad it's not Casey Toohill anymore. I'll just say that. So those are your draft class numbers right there. So pretty decent. Now we know what we're working with. We know who's who. So when we see somebody in practice running around, because if I'm not mistaken, the Commanders don't do names on the back of practice jerseys. They just do numbers. So you won't really know who you're looking at. Sometimes they'll put the name on the front of the helmet so that teammates can learn who that rookie is, because there's a bunch of new numbers out there. We don't know who you are. So they put their name on the front of their helmet. But now we can say, oh, I saw a clip of 82 making a play. Now you know it's Ben Sinnott, right? So anyway, I digress. So another thing that I wanted to talk about tonight was the schedule. So we know the schedule is coming out next Wednesday. I talked about this on the podcast last night. The information was put out there 2 days ago. Ben, I can't remember his last name, but from the Sports Journal put that out. And then Adam Schefter retweeted that. And so we know that they'll be releasing the schedule next Wednesday. So we know who the home opponents are. You're looking at the list of home opponents. Now, what we don't know is when these games will be played and if every single one of these games will actually be a home game. So technically, as you look, we're supposed to have 9 home games this season. But any one of those games could end up being across the pond. We don't know who's going to be relegated to playing over in the UK or in Germany, right? We don't know. All we know is that the Eagles and I think the Packers are playing in Brazil in week 1. That's all we know. We don't know who's going to go where for the rest of those games abroad. So we could be one of them. And it almost feels like we're due. We haven't played across the pond or in a foreign, territory since 2016. So it kind of feels like we're due. I don't want to jinx us, but I'm just telling you. And we haven't had the best attendance here of late, so we might get flexed. We might be one of the teams that loses a home game this year. Who's to say, right? Anyway, I wanted to bring this up because next week we'll really have a definitive schedule. We'll be able to discuss and go through all of that stuff. But I wanted to look at this home schedule because that also will tell us who we're playing on the road as well. And I just wanted to just discuss for a second, what are feasible games that you think we can get? Remember, it's no longer called FedEx Field. The naming rights have been snatched from the Commanders, and it's now Commanders Field until they get a new sponsor, someone that wants to have their name on the field. I don't know if they'll find a new sponsor because the field is raggedy and it's beat up, and they're going to have a new stadium here anyway in a little bit. I say that, but they still haven't figured out where they're going to build it. They haven't broken ground. And so we could still be talking about another 7 or 8 years before we get a new stadium. That said, one of the big things we have to do with Dan Quinn as our head coach is we've got to restore order at home. We've been a miserable team at home. We have lost any sense of home field advantage. We don't protect the house. We don't have an advantage at home. Opposing teams' fans come in, take over the stadium. That has got to change. Now that you have a star quarterback and a guy that gives you a face on the offensive side of the football, because that's who sells tickets, really. Look, winning sells tickets. Who am I kidding? But remember 2012? Robert Griffin III put asses in seats. We won the division in 2015, and the stadium was half packed for that "you like that" playoff game against the Green Bay Packers. I did not forget. Meanwhile, in 2012, it was a jam-packed house for that 2012 Seattle Seahawks playoff game. So a drastic difference between the feeling, going into the playoffs in 2012 versus the 2015 playoff game against the Green Bay Packers. And that was against Aaron Rodgers, and people still didn't show up. So Jaden Daniels makes a huge difference, especially if he ends up being exciting and it translates to wins. People are going to want to show up, and they're going to want to see him first and foremost. That said, we got to find a way to start winning games at home. We were embarrassing at home. We were better on the road last year than we were at home. If you recall, we won 4 games last year. We beat Denver on the road. We beat Atlanta on the road. And we beat New England on the road. Our lone victory at home was against Arizona. And we barely won that football game. Okay? And if you think about our losses, boy, did we get our asses whooped at home or what? We were way more competitive on the road than we were at home. The Bills game was at home. The Bears game was at home. The Dolphins game was at home. Dallas beat the brakes off of us at home. They beat the shit out of us in Dallas too, but they beat us up pretty good at the end of the season at home as well. I could keep going. The Giants came in and urinated all over us. scored 33 points. I don't know if the Giants, outside of their game against Arizona earlier in the season, if they scored 30 plus in any other game in 2023. So, yeah, it was pretty rough at home last year. So, I ask you this. You're looking at the home schedule, or the home opponents, rather. Dallas, Giants, Philly. We know that every year we're going to play a home game against all three of those teams, right? So that's not new news. We're playing the AFC North, right? Which means you're playing the Steelers, the Browns, the Bengals, and the Ravens, okay? Tough division, right? I know. Bears, Falcons, Titans, and Panthers. With the Falcons and the Panthers on the schedule, it means we're playing the NFC South. So that means you're playing the Bucks, the Panthers, the Falcons, and the Saints. Not as tough, okay? So, with that said, how many of these games do you realistically think we can get? And, you know, we don't know when these games are going to show up. And it makes a huge difference because Caleb Williams in week 1 or 2 may not be the Caleb Williams you see in weeks 9, 10, or 14 or 15, right? Could be a totally different quarterback, whether good or bad. We don't know. He can come out of the gates, guns a-blazing, teams start to adapt and adjust, and by week 7, he could be struggling. Or vice versa. He could come out of the gate struggling, and then by week 7, he could really be hitting his stride. You don't know. It definitely matters when you get a team, right? So we don't know when these games are going to be played. But realistically, how many of these do you think we can actually get? And which are the ones you think we can realistically get? And a lot of you are, you know, coming up with 9 or 10 wins. How are you getting there? So if you know who the home opponents are, you can also deduce who the road opponents are, right? So you don't have to guess. You know you're playing those same 3 teams that are first on this list: Dallas, New York, and Philadelphia, all on the road, right? If you're playing the Steelers and the Browns at home, that means you're playing the Bengals and the Ravens on the road, okay? So, you know, those are 2 road games. You play the 2 teams in the conference that finished at the same spot in their division as you did in your division. So we're playing the NFC South. So, and we're the NFC East, so we're already playing our division. So then you take the 2 worst teams of the other 2 divisions, which is the NFC North and the NFC West. Okay, so we're playing the NFC North last place team because we were the last place team in the NFC East, and we're not playing the NFC North or the NFC West this season. So you take the last place team in those 2 divisions and you're playing them. So we got the Bears at home, which means we got the last place team in the NFC West in their building, which is the Arizona Cardinals. Okay, so we're going to Arizona, all right? Atlanta and the Panthers are the 2 NFC South teams that we'll be playing at home, which means we're going to Tampa and we're going to the New Orleans Saints. Okay, so those are 2 road games, and then we're playing the Titans at home. That's that extra AFC game that every team gets now on their schedule, and you take turns being at home or on the road with those games. Apparently this year it's our turn to be at home in that spot. We're playing the Titans. We got some get back for their ass too. Remember that loss in 2022, last second, Carson Wentz throws the pick. As backbreaking a loss as I can remember in the last 2 or 3 years. Speaking of which, I'm just going to throw this out there. What was your most backbreaking loss over the last 3 years? Let's call it. What was your most backbreaking loss? That Titans loss is pretty high on the list. I'd have to sit down and kind of really analyze. The Vikings loss stung, but I don't think there was a more crushing, soul-crushing. I mean, after the Terry PI putting the ball at the 2-yard line, who didn't think we were about to win that game, right? It's got to be the Titans game. We had some soul crush. That Eagles loss last year, the first game in Philadelphia, when Ronald didn't go for 2. And then they called Terry out of bounds in overtime on that 3rd down dime from Sam. That was a crusher too. That was a soul crusher because we had just sacked Jalen Hurts, or we had got him to 3rd and forever on an intentional grounding, I believe, because we got pressure on him. And then we gave up. We played like 50 yards off the sticks and let him complete like a 12, 13-yard pass to get him into field goal range. Like, what kind of bullshit ass defense was that? That one hurt because you had him. And I talked so much shit before that game because I was so hurt by the loss against Buffalo, like how badly we got beat up. I wanted that Philadelphia game so badly, and it was there for the taking, and we blew it. We played so well, too. That Titans game in 2022, though. B-Rob's first game, back from being shot. Diami goes ape shit. You can't lose that game to Ryan Tannehill. I see a lot of I see Browns 2022, Giants on Sunday Night Football. That Giants Sunday Night Football loss was pretty crushing. I see some more Giants. The Giants are dominating right now. I see Bears game. So, but see, the Bears game wasn't close though. That was embarrassing. It wasn't soul crushing as much as it was demoralizing. Like, oh shit, we really trash. Like, that was an eye opener. The Titans game, I still thought we had a chance to be really nice that year because we had to come from behind win against Jacksonville. We fell behind against Detroit really badly, but we fought back and we had a chance in that game, and we just didn't make enough plays defensively to get stops when we needed them because the offense came to life. And then we had the debacle against the Eagles, but the offensive line had gotten battered and bruised the week before. We had lost our center in the final, possession of the game when the game was out of hand. And because our kicker, was Joey Sly our kicker already? Or was it still Graham? I'm about to call him Graham Gano. Was it shucks? Whoever the kicker was, he missed the extra point, which would have put us down 8, and it made it 9, and that essentially rendered the game over. Whatever. You thought you had a chance, right? You were supposed to beat the Titans, and we didn't. We lost to the Eagles. You needed to bounce back against the Titans, and we did. Just thinking about it, that Giants one was pretty, but you know what's crazy about that game is we all remember the bad call on Terry that negated the touchdown on the illegal formation and all that bullshit. We remember the defender being on Curtis Samuel's back like a backpack that didn't get called, which was egregious. But even if we would have scored a touchdown, who had confidence we were going to convert the 2-point conversion? I didn't. We were awful on 2-point conversions with Scott Turner. He was terrible with 2-point conversions. There's no way we were going to score that 2-point. We were going to lose that game 20-18. Just like we lost to the Giants in 2020, 20-19, going for 2 and didn't get it because Scott Turner is ass at 2-point conversions. There's no way we were going to get that. Which is why we lost the Titans game, because we got to the 2-yard line, which is where you attempt 2-point conversions from, and he couldn't come up with one play. He had 4 downs to come up with one play that could get us 2 yards to get a touchdown. And he couldn't draw up one play to get anybody open. And on 3rd down, Carson Wentz throws a pick to David Long Jr. Oy vey. I see a lot of Giants, though. A lot of people said it was the Giants game because we had a chance to go to the playoffs, and I get it. And that one sucked, but I could see where it was heading because we didn't play well enough to win that game. We played tight not to lose. They played to win. They came in with the mindset of, hey, let's go beat these bastards. And we came into, let's not lose to these bastards. It's 2 different mindsets, and there's one out. They were going for it on 4th and 7, and we were punting on 4th and 4 from our own or from the Giants' 44-yard line, right? That's the kind of bullshit we were on. And they were going for it on 4th and 7, from damn near midfield. like just some disrespectful shit. And they converted, by the way. So anyway, I digress. So you know the schedule, right? We're looking at, or not the schedule, you know the opponents rather, and you know where we're playing them. We've gone through all the road opponents. We've gone through all the home opponents. So we'll see how they, set them up next year. While we're at it, can we just get a guess right now as to what the primetime count will be for the Commanders? We were asked last year, so I don't expect them just because we have a flashy quarterback. That doesn't matter to the NFL. What matters is putting a good product out there. And technically, to them, we still suck. So until that changes, you're not going to get extra built-in primetime games. And we're not the Giants, who seem to get primetime games despite being trash. They don't view us in that light anymore. So for me, the number is 2. Let's see what you guys say. Doorgunner says 1. Jay Willard says 2. JR says 1. OKG 2000 says 2. Mr. Ron B says 2. Thursday night and a Monday night. I'm with that. That's exactly what I see. We're definitely, I can assure you, we won't get a Sunday night game. We're not that important yet. We got to win some games if you want to get on Sunday Night Football, right? Last time we got on Sunday Night Football, well, no, I lied. I was about to say we embarrassed ourselves, but no, we played the Giants. That was the last time. The year before that is the year we embarrassed ourselves on Sunday Night Football against Dallas, when we were fighting each other and they beat us 56-14. Yeah. Bad times. Video channel says 2 with a third flex late in the season. Okay, I could see that. Jay says we'll get one primetime game and Thanksgiving. Don't do us like that, Jay. You can't get Thanksgiving again, man. We're not Dallas. We're not supposed to play on Thanksgiving every year. Feels like we've been up there like 3 out of the last 5 years. This shit has to end. YG DJ 1, Tyler C2, Brandon N2. Miss P says 2. 1 versus Baltimore or Chicago and 1 versus Dallas. Okay, I like the way you think, because I could see that scenario. If it's Chicago, it's Thursday. If it's Baltimore, it's Monday. All right. The Dallas game, I don't even know if they're going to put us. I think I don't think they're going to waste one on Dallas on us. I think it's going to be the Giants. The only way it's Dallas is if it's Thanksgiving or some shit like that. I think they're going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone and throw us up there. Like, if it's Baltimore on Monday, then it's the Giants on a Thursday. That's what they usually do. And they usually make it early in the season to get us out of the way. Remember, in 2021, it was the Giants. And then again, I want to say it was the second weekend of the season. It was the Giants on Thursday Night Football in 2021. And then I want to say we had the Giants on Sunday night in 2022. Yeah. So it's usually the Giants because they don't want to waste the Dallas on us. You remember in Big Daddy, we wasted the good surprise on you. They don't want to waste a perfectly good Dallas game on us, right? We haven't played the Cowboys competitively in 2-3 years now. I mean, obviously the last game of the season in 2022, they didn't need it. We Sam was out there. We wanted to play well, but they didn't need it. When they need it, they usually clobber us. So, and even in 2021, the final score doesn't do it justice. Remember, they molested us in that 2021 game when we had won 4 in a row to get to 6-6, and we had 5 straight division games, and the first of which was against Dallas, and they brought their heated benches to Washington and proceeded to then kick our teeth in. That score was 16 or 19-0, and they sacked Taylor Heineke on a 4th down, forced a fumble, picked it up. I think they ran for a touchdown. We looked like the SCLU Mud Dogs early in that game. They were picking up the ball, dusting the shit off, running for touchdowns. Remember, that was a game where I think Heineke found like some sharp object on the field. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. We looked like we were inadequate and incapable of protecting anybody in that game. It was a jailbreak anytime Heineke tried to drop back. It was a joke. Somehow, some way, we managed to stay in that game and make it competitive. Cole Holcomb with a pick six, if you recall, to bring us within a score. And then we got to stop. And a lot of fans still haven't given him for this. And I got over it rather quickly. But he was really playing well that year. If you remember, we had so many injuries. But DeAndre Carter had a pass down the sideline. Remember, Heineke got knocked out of that game. Kyle Allen came in. If I'm not mistaken, it was Kyle Allen. Came into that game because it was 2021. I think Allen was still here in 21. And he throws a dime down the sidelines to DeAndre Carter, and he dropped it. And, of course, fate would have it, the Cowboys went on to win the game. And breathe easy. But anyway, I digress. I think they're going to give us the Giants instead. I agree with Miss P. I think the primetime game is Baltimore or Chicago because of the Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels thing. It's going to be exciting. I think they're going to like that angle. I still don't think they waste the Baltimore on us. Again, that's how I see it. You kill two birds. When it's bad teams, you try to kill two birds with one stone. Nobody wants to see Chicago. Nobody wants to see Washington. Put them against each other, and now we don't have to worry about them the rest of the season, right? That's going to be a little bit different this year. You would assume with them having Caleb Williams and us having Jaden Daniels, even the lay fan who doesn't care about the Bears or the Commanders is like, hey, I wonder what those young guys are up to. I'd like to see them. So I think they may put us against them on – we've done it twice in a row, right? 2 years in a row, we played the Bears on Thursday Night Football when the two teams were absolutely garbage can juice and trash. Now that we actually got a reason for people to want to tune in, it'd be a damn shame if you didn't decide to do it this year. But I don't know if they're going to run it back a third year in a row. That kind of seems like overkill, if you ask me. So I think it might be Baltimore. But we'll see. Anyway, so two, I think the number I saw a lot was either one or two. I think everybody's pretty – I think everyone's smart in suggesting that the number won't be any higher than two. That's kind of what it feels like. Don't see Jaden Daniels having enough star power to garner a third game. But, somebody said, and I think it might have been Jay. No, Jay said one in Thanksgiving night, which I'm like, bro, I don't want Thanksgiving. Come on, Jay, don't do that to us. Somebody else said two and then a third. I think it was Video Channel. Said two and then a flexed third game. I could see that happening too. I could see that happening as well. So, home opponents. I'm looking at the schedule, and we can beat any of the three NFC East teams. My goal for those home games is to win 2 out of those 3 games. Don't care which 3 opponents it is. I'd prefer it to be Dallas and Philadelphia. If we lose to the Giants again, so be it. I don't give a shit. Like at first, I was hell bent on beating the Giants. Like the Giants don't matter because they're not good either. Like when we have to finally beat them, we will. But the teams that are ahead of us, those are the teams you need to start making a statement against. Like coming close isn't good enough. Nobody respects close. We could talk that close shit against Philadelphia. They're not trying to hear that shit. They beat us twice last year. And yes, we were up double figures in both of those games. They're not trying to hear that shit. In their mind, we were just toying around with y'all because we knew we could beat y'all. I don't want to hear that shit. So I want to beat them. And Dallas, they just obliterate us. They don't. That's the one team in the division that doesn't respect us at all. Sheer, pure disrespect they have for us. And I told you I've been beat up for this already. I'm going to continue to say this because I believe it. That's not a rivalry anymore till we make it one. They don't respect us. We see this as a rivalry. A rivalry is only a rivalry if it's seen as one on both sides. They don't respect us as a rival right now. They only respect Philadelphia. They destroyed the Giants and they destroyed us every time they play us when they have something on the line, when it matters for them. They beat the hell out of the Giants and they beat the brakes off of us when they see both teams. And right now, the only team in the division that they get geared up for, that they saddle up for, and they say, hey, we got to bring our A game is for the Philadelphia Eagles. They could give two shits about us. I need that to change. That's not how it's supposed to be. So I can see us winning 2 out of the 3 games in the division at home. So now, because in my mind, we're a 6-7 win team. If you're going to win 6 or 7 games, you need to win 4 of them at home. No less than 3. Going on the road is tough. And when you're a young team, it's even tougher. We got to start winning games at home. We got to start making home feel like home again. The best way to do that is to start winning some games. So, we can beat the Browns, man. We can beat the Browns. I don't know when we're going to play the Browns. I don't give a shit if Deshaun Watson is healthy or not healthy. We can beat the Browns. The Browns are not great. Now, if we can't stop the run, we will have a problem with the Browns. If we can stop the run, we can beat the Browns, man. I don't like the matchup against the Steelers. don't like that matchup at all. And I don't know who's going to be playing quarterback for them. Is it Justin Fields? Is it, is it Russell Wilson? By the time we get to him, who knows what the situation will be. I hate playing the Steelers. When's the last time we beat the Pittsburgh Steelers? Obviously, we beat them in 2020. I think that was the first time we had beat them in since 91 or some shit. It couldn't have been that long. I just know every time we see the Steelers, they beat the shit out of us, it feels like. And when I say beat the shit out, I'm not talking about on the scoreboard. Like, it's not 39-13. It's just they beat us up physically. It feels like every time. Some of the worst beatings that I can recall, some of the most grueling defeats, excruciating from a physical standpoint, have been the Steelers. Antonio Brown twerking on us week 1 of 2016. 2012, Robert Griffin III, us doing that stupid-ass play where we throw the ball back to the running back, and then he throws it to Robert down the sideline. And I want to say it was Ryan Clark who just lambasted Robert. I'm talking about Robert did like a 360 in the air, on the program type shit. I'm like, what are we doing, man? Kid's already taking hits as a runner, and you're going to send him down the sideline to get walloped? Are you kidding me? Remember when we sent Willie Parker down the sideline and he got crushed? It reminded me of that. Like, what are we doing, man? It's never good when we play the Steelers. It's all bad. 2020 made up for a lot of it, though. That felt really good. And that was the last time we saw those bastards. So they're probably looking for some get back themselves. We unraveled their season that year, if you recall. I don't like the way that game looks on the schedule. I'm just going to be honest with you. So the Bears, we owe them. They're on the list, right? Every year I reassess the list. If we get back against the team, I take them off the list. If I'm not really that upset anymore, like it was something minor, I put them on the list, and then it's like time wore on. I'm like, all right, you're off the list. The Bears are on the list. That shit was embarrassing last year. I can't remember a time where I was more embarrassed to be a fan of this team than week 5 last season against the Bears. Was it 5 or 6? It was 5 because we played the Eagles in week 4. I can't remember a time where I was more embarrassed as a fan. I cannot remember a time where I was more embarrassed as a fan. I'm at home watching this game on the floor, doing push-ups, because anytime we play a primetime game, I'm too nervous to just sit still. So I got to do stuff. So I'm doing push-ups and I'm doing calisthenics and shit. And I just stopped because I wasn't in the mood to do any more push-ups. We were getting our asses reamed so badly that I'm just sitting there in disbelief. And my wife is looking at me like, I'm going upstairs. I'm not watching this. And I didn't even answer her. I was just in utter disbelief, sitting on the floor like a little kid, 8 years old, Indian style, in utter disbelief. Like, how is this happening? How? I talked so much shit after that Eagles loss. Like, hey, we about to beat the Bears. We're going to beat the Falcons. We're going to beat the Giants. And next time we see your ass, it's going to be for first place. And here we are getting our brains bashed in by the damn Bears, who at the time was winless and hadn't won a game in like 17 or 18 games. If they're not on the list, if they don't qualify for the list, then I don't know who does qualify for the goddamn list. They're at the top of the damn list as far as I'm concerned. Non-division teams, that is. We got to get their ass at home. We got to get their ass. Falcons. I feel like we due for a loss against them. I hate to say that because we've been finding ways to beat their ass. And it's been some of the most creative ways to win a game. Like things that we don't normally do, we do against the Falcons to find a way to win, right? Let's just recall and recap the last 3 Falcons games, shall we? 2023, which was last season. We pick off, this is a team that is dead last in forcing turnovers. We don't know what turnovers even look like. We picked Desmond Ridder off 3 times, including one in the end zone where I think he thought Benjamin St. Juice was on his team. Because Juice, we all know Juice can't catch claps in a whorehouse, as a wise man used to say. He hadn't had an interception his entire career. And he just throws up a loft job to him. And Juice is like, oh shit, Juice didn't even have to jump. But he's so paranoid, he jumped in the air to pick it off. Why? I don't know. He could have just stood on the ground and let the ball fall to him. There was no Falcon receiver in sight. Don't know what he was thinking and why he threw that football. But then Jamin Davis, they were going down to beat us. And Jamin Davis picks him off because he threw the ball behind his receiver, which was the running back, Bijan Robinson, who had a step on Jamin Davis. And then he puts it in front of him. Who knows what happens? But he throws it behind him, and Jamin picks it off, and we secure the victory. 3 interceptions. 3 for a team that barely gets an interception. We might get 3 interceptions in 8 games. We had 3 in 1 game. Somehow we started like gangbusters on offense, if you remember. They couldn't stop us in the first half, and then we couldn't bust a grape in the second half offensively, and we had to hold on for dear life. I think we scored on the first possession of the second half. I think we scored on like a Brian Robinson screen or something like that. First possession of the second half, and we didn't score another damn point in the game. If I'm not mistaken, we might have scored that Brian Robinson touchdown in the first half. Anyway, we held on for dear life, but we had a big interception that sealed the deal, Jamin Davis. The year prior, 2022, it's raining at FedEx Field. We start out with a Brian Robinson touchdown on the first possession. He catches the ball in the flats, runs over a defender, gets into the end zone. We're having a great time. Yay. And then Heineke throws a terrible pick before halftime, changes the entire game. And they're running the ball down our throats. Mariota is killing us on the ground. They're running the bitch on us. These are some massive holes we're talking about here, man. They are just gutting us. Somehow we're leading this game 19-14. And Mariota takes him down the field, and he's got Cordero Patterson wide open in the end zone for a touchdown. He's going to just throw a little quick dart to him. And Daron Payne bats it in the air, and Kendall Fuller comes out of nowhere and dives and picks the shit off, and we hold on for a 19-14 victory. Are you kidding me? Are you serious right now? Did we just do that 2 years in a row? You go back to 2021. This is the YOLO game from Taylor Heineke, where he throws the ball up to Terry. He catches it in a sea of Falcons jerseys. But it's the possession at the end where he's rolling to his left. He stops, he plants, he turns all the way back and looks to his right and sees J.D. McKissic all by his lonesome, throws it to him. McKissic races for the end zone. There's a Falcon defender coming. He dives from like the 5-yard line and body surfs on that Falcon defender as he's stretching the ball over the goal line, gets in, and we hold on for dear life. And remember, they threw a Hail Mary at the end of that game, and Torrey McTyer tears his ACL, which is important to know, right? Because everybody jumped in that game, and Torrey McTyer tears his ACL. Then like 2 weeks later, we're playing the effing New Orleans Saints, And before halftime, everybody's thinking about Torrey McTyer tearing his ACL at the end of the game 2 weeks ago. Nobody jumps, and goddamn Jameis Winston completes a Hail Mary before halftime, and we end up losing the damn game. Anyway, we're due for a loss against Atlanta is what I'm telling you, okay? We've beaten them in some of the most extraordinary ways. We're due for one. I don't want to lose to them. And for Rico's sake, I don't want to lose, but it feels like we're due, right? The Titans, they're on the list. That bullshit that they did to us back in 22, they're on the mother effing list, okay? We got to get their ass. We owe they monkey asses. Same can be said for the Panthers. If I'm not mistaken, we didn't see them last year, but we saw them in 2022. And, oh, no, what? We beat them. We scratched them off the list. It was 2020 that I was thinking about. When they came in here with Curtis Samuel and beat our ass. You remember that was the Dwayne Haskins final game where you had a receiver wide ass open on the 4th down and he didn't see him and he took a sack. And after that, he got benched and he got released. Yeah, that was a pretty ugly game. So I'd put him on the list. And then Heineke went into Carolina. I want to say it was in 2021. I think it was 21. Heineke went in there and he blessed those boys. And I'll never forget, we put Cam Curl on Christian McCaffrey on a 4th down at the end of the game. And Cam Curl, it was like a 4th and 3. Remember Cam had just come back. Cam was out of football. They went and got him. They signed him. He went to Arizona. Arizona at that time was really good. If you remember, that was the year they started like 7 or 8-0. They were the last undefeated team. So it was 2021. And then they started losing games. And Carolina went over there and destroyed those boys. And Cam scored a touchdown. And I said, oh, shit, here we go. And, you know, those Panthers fans showed up for Cam's ass. He came back. They started him against us. And Heineke was on that game. He was on. But we still needed a late stop on 4th down to preserve the victory. And Cam Curl was able to stop Christian McCaffrey short of the sticks on 4th and 3 with a tackle. I want to say he gained maybe 1.5 yards, maybe 2. Cam Curl made the stop, and we got the football and preserved the victory and won the game. I want to say it was 24-20 or something like that, 27-24, something to that effect. It's a good win on the road. So they're not on the list, but we need to beat the Panthers. They stink. They legitimately stink. They may fix some things this year. They had an interesting offseason, to say the least. But so going through this, 2 out of the 3 NFC East teams, the Browns, the Bears, the Falcons. Hell, look, there's no reason that you can't win 5 of these games. There are 9 opponents in front of us. You can win 5 of these games. Okay. Now, again, are you going to beat Dallas? Are you going to beat Philadelphia? Probably not. Who are we kidding? But I'm not going to say we're not going to beat them, especially at home. But the likelihood is you're probably not going to beat them. But I think we can. And until you tell me we can't, we will. We're not going to beat the Steelers. I have a phobia of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't like our chances in that game. As a matter of fact, that's the game that I feel like we have to do our very best to protect Jaden Daniels from himself. Quick pass game, run the football. Don't let TJ Watt destroy our offensive line single-handedly, because we know he's capable. And they have a guy on the other side that is equally as vicious, flavor delicious in Highsmith. I'd like to keep Jaden Daniels upright in that game in particular. We can beat the Browns. Will we beat the Browns? Don't know, but we can. those last 4 opponents, man, if you don't smack their asses around, Bears, Falcons, Titans, and Panthers, what? Man, if you don't go get you some home dubs, get you some home cooking, man, if we can't win 3 out of the 4 of those last games, then we just don't know what it means to be at home and protecting Commanders Field. We don't know what that is. We got to start. And again, we don't know. The Falcons, I take it back. The Falcons aren't in that conversation anymore. I think they're going to be good this year with Kirk Cousins and the talent that they have. So I said 3 out of the 4. They're the one that I don't think, you should beat. And we haven't beat Kirk Cousins since he's left here. He's undefeated against us. He beat us once in Minnesota, and he beat us in Washington in 2022. He beat us in 2020. We went there in it was 2019. It was a Haskins game. Had to be 19. We went there in 19, and then he got us in 22. So he's due for an L. Something's got to give there. We got to beat Kirk, and then the Falcons are due for a victory over us, it feels like. So something's got to give there. But Titans are on the list. Bears are on the list. And we just need to beat the Panthers, man. We just need to beat the Panthers. So that's 3 right there. I think we can beat the Browns. That's 4. If you just gave me 1 out of the 3 against the division, that's 5 wins you can get. I want 2 out of the 3 in the division. I told you we got to go 3-3 in the division this year, man. Like, we went 0-6 last year. After going, what we go 2 years prior to that in 2021, because 2022 we beat Philadelphia, we beat Dallas, and we tied with the Giants. So even that shit wasn't good. We were 2-3-1 that year. 2021, let's see. That was Carson Wentz was the first game was the Eagles. We lost 24-8 in that game. Wentz got sacked like 9 times or whatever. Then we played, let's see. That was the year where we had 5 straight. So that was the only division game until the last 5 games of the season. And then we went 1-4 in that stretch. Only game we won was the last one against the Giants. So it was Dallas. How did that order go again? It was Dallas first. Then it was the Giants, I think. Then it was Dallas again. Then I think it was Philadelphia. Then it was the Giants. And we lost all them bitches, I think, except for that last Giants game. Because we lost to the Cowboys. That was the game where they just molested us. Then, you know what? No, it was the Eagles, because that's the COVID game, right? We lost to the Cowboys, got embarrassed and emasculated early, and then we fought back, but we fell short. But then after that game, everybody got COVID, and we had injuries. And then we had that Thursday night, that quick turnaround against the Eagles, I think, and they had to postpone it. So it might have been a regular game, and then we ended up playing that game on like a Tuesday because of all the guys that had COVID. And then the next week, we had Dallas on a Sunday night, and that was the 56-14 game, if I'm not mistaken. Then you played the Eagles again, and that one was at FedEx. That's when the railing fell off at the end of the game. That's the game where Heineke was taking us down the field at the end, and he threw the pick in the end zone, and that secured the victory. And then the rail fell off at the end when Jalen Hurts and some of the players were running into the locker room. And then the last game of the season was the Giants, and that was the what was the name of the safety? He had the pick six, Bobby McCain. had the pick six. He had 2 picks in that game, including a pick 6. That was the infamous Jake Fromm quarterback sneak game. Anyway. Look at me going down memory lane. I need to quit. It's not good memories. So I see 5. I see 5, guys. Where I think we're going to struggle is on the road. Okay. I know home hasn't been good to us of late, but I think this is where things start to turn around. I think with Jaden Daniels, you have an electrifying player. People, want to see this guy. They're going to start showing up. And I told you, this team's going to compete. And defensively, they're going to give you a reason to believe defensively. You couple that with Jaden Daniels' excitement and what he brings to the table from a dynamic ability standpoint. I think you're going to see fans showing up in droves, and it's going to create a real home field environment. And Commanders Field will be better than FedEx Field. I'll just say that. So anyway, I digress. All right. Let's get to the comment section. See what you guys are talking about. So, we'll be all over the schedule next week. Wednesday, we'll have a huge show, a massive show. We'll go through the schedule like we always do with a fine-tooth comb. We'll really be able to analyze and overanalyze the schedule and kind of see how it man, I hope they bless us. Man, do I hope they give us a chance to get off to a fast start. The last time I asked for it, I got it. Matter of fact, the last 2 years I asked for it and I got it. 2 out of the 3 years. Because 2022 was not easy. Was not an easy start. 2023, this past year, was not an easy start. They gave us Arizona, which is what I asked for, but then they sent us to Denver and then Buffalo and then Philadelphia. And so, you know what, though? I can't complain about that schedule. They gave us a chance. We won the first 2, and then they gave us Buffalo and Philadelphia as litmus tests, right? Kind of gauged where we are. You want to start 2-0? Okay, fine. Let's really see where you're at. And we hung tough with Buffalo for 3 quarters, and then we got our doors blown off. And we should have beat Philadelphia in week 4. But even after that, you look at the next 3 games, we should have won those 3 games, on paper at least. Chicago, Atlanta, and the Giants. And we just didn't take care of business. We did that to ourselves. I asked for a quick start in 2022. At that time, Detroit was ass and Jacksonville was ass. You couldn't ask for a better start, right? They gave us Jacksonville at home in week 1 and at Detroit in week 2. And we fumbled again. We fumbled the bag. So they've been pretty generous to us as far as starts to the season and giving us an opportunity to get our shit off. We're due for a road trip. So we've been at home against some lousy teams to start the season off each of the last 2 years. So we're probably due for three years. If you go back to 21, that was the Chargers. The Chargers weren't worth a damn in 2021, that beginning of the season when Ryan Fitzpatrick got hurt 2 possessions in. They were ass too. Remember, if Antonio Gibson doesn't fumble the ball at our own 3-yard line, they don't beat us. For as bad as that game was, Terry with that spectacular catch down the sidelines, as bad as that game was from an offensive standpoint, if we just punt the ball, they're not. Remember, it took them, we fumbled, he fumbled at our own 5, they recovered it at the 4, and it took them until 3rd down to throw a back shoulder fade to Mike Williams to even score the touchdown. They were awful at that time. So we've been at home 3 consecutive years against subpar football teams that we could have handled at the crib, and we blew it. We won 2 out of 3 of them. Just they weren't impressive. And then we lost to the Chargers. So we're due for a road game, man. So this is probably week 1. You know what I'd like? I asked for Arizona last year. I don't want Arizona first this year. They got Kyler Murray now. I'm not asking for that. How about New Orleans week 1? They stink. At least early they do. I remember last year they beat the Titans without scoring a single touchdown. I think they kicked 6 field goals and beat the Titans like 18-16 or some bullshit like that. Let me get them in week 1. Let them try that shit against us this year, kicking field goals, and I think we can beat them. I think we can take them. I mean, let me get some of the Saints in week 1. Who else is a road opponent? I don't want Cincinnati. I wouldn't mind Arizona week 1. I wouldn't mind that, but a rematch of week 1 last year. But I don't know if I really want to see Kyler Murray in week 1. I don't know if that's something I'm looking forward to or not. I wouldn't mind an NFC East opponent week 1. I wouldn't mind the Giants week 1. I wouldn't mind. I don't want Dallas week 1. I know that. I wouldn't mind Philadelphia week 1. We know they're not. The Eagles are playing the Packers in Brazil week 1, so we know it's not them. But I don't want Dallas. So I guess I wouldn't mind the Giants in week 1. I don't want Dallas week 1. I don't know why I don't want Dallas week 1. Because the shit they do with Dallas is they'll give us Dallas week 1 and then we won't see them again until week 17. It never makes sense with Dallas. It's either one at the beginning, one at the very end, or they're both at the very end. It's rare that they kind of spread Dallas out evenly. We'll see. Anyway, I digress. Jason Fios, been a member for 26 months. Who writes, "What up, Lou? What's up, Jason? How's the family?" Good, man. Hopefully yours is doing well also. "That's why Tress is a captain and a good man / teammate. The O-line situation, throw him in a pot and see who rises to the top." And I think that's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to allow these guys to compete. Other than Cosme and Biotish, I think they're going to give every opportunity to every guy. That includes Andrew Wiley, unfortunately, at tackle. And he may end up starting in guard for all we know. I think they've got an idea of what they want to trot out there first, like in terms of a starting 5. But I think a lot of these OTAs and even into the early portion of camp is going to decide who's starting where. Because at some point, they got to put together a group of 5 and they got to say, all right, if we had a game today, who's our starting 5? They got to have that going into camp. Now, it may not end that way, but you got to have a group in mind as you head into the camp. And it's hard to do that because, again, there are no pads during these, OTAs. There's no pads during mini. So how do you really tell what's what? You can't, especially for offensive linemen, until you put the pads on. Well, those don't go on until July. So it's going to be pretty tough for them to decipher who's what and where, who should go where and all of that good stuff. But when it's all said and done, they'll figure out the best 5 and put them on the field. I got confidence in that. And yes, Tress, we already knew he was going to do. He's a stand-up guy. He wasn't going to fight this thing. He understands that, he had a good run with 5, but the quarterbacks run the show. And they spent the number 2 overall pick on this kid. Tress, he understood. Remember, we talked about there was an autograph signing right around the draft. Matter of fact, it was right after the draft. He was down at the Harbor, I think, signing, memorabilia and things like that. And he was still signing Tress Way number 5. And he's like, yo, this will be one of the last times I'll be able to do that. So he already was foreshadowing. He knew what was good. And we figured he'd give it up. Pause. Duncan Wright, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, "Hey, Louie, don't come here to talk class, but uh-oh. 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 Oh no. Duncan, how many have you had? Come on. Hand it over. How many have you had? Let's get you some water, man. Let's get you a glass of water, dude. Just a couple sips. Just get some water in there, man. All right? Let's get you a couple sips. Let's be responsible here. Okay? Before you send the next one, let's get a little water in you. Let's get some agua in you. Okay? Yeah, we'll revisit this a little bit later. Let's just get some water right now, okay? Let's try that. Put it down. Hey. Glass down. Let's get some water, man. Let's get some water. Uh-oh. He doubled down. Uh-oh. He doubled down. Uh-oh. It's been 2 years. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, somebody get him some help. Hey, Duncan. Hey, water break. Okay? Water break. I'll drink some water with you. If you need me to, I'll drink some water with you. Okay? We can do this. Put down the phone. I'm assuming you're messaging from your phone. Put the phone down. Pick up the water. And let's just let that set in for a little bit. Okay? You got this. We got this together, man. We got this together. Carlton Pagano Jackson. My guy CPJ. It's been a while, man. What's going on, CPJ? Been a member for 26 months. What's good, Lou? What's going on, CPJ? Said it's been a minute, but always showing love. And it has, and I literally just said, it's been a minute, man. It's been a minute since I've seen your name come up here. It's good to see you. It's always great to hear from you, man. Hope all is well and your family's doing outstanding, man. Duncan Wright. Uh-oh. Double up. Let's see what this one looks like. No. Oh, no. Oh, no. Hey. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no. Duncan, bro. What are we doing, man? Duncan, put it down, bro. Put it down, Duncan. Come on. Put it down. Put it down. All right. Put it down, Duncan. Door Gunner, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Door Gunner writes, painfully flying up from Florida to these games is rough, especially when you come to a game and they're non-competitive. I don't think you're going to have to worry about that this year, Door Gunner. I sincerely believe that this team's going to be in just about every game they play. And I remember when Rivera first got here in 2020. And we would fall behind in a lot of games, but we would never quit. And, you know, one thing I can't admit I was guilty of in past years, I'm no longer going to be a prisoner of settling for, it was better than last year. Because when Rivera got here in 2020, we were so awful in 19 that anything was an upgrade and an improvement over 19 season. Remember, we only won 2 games that year. So we were so awful, or we won 3 games, excuse me. We were 3-13, I believe, in 19. We beat the Lions. We beat the Dolphins, the Lions. We beat somebody else. Dwayne had 2 wins, I thought. Maybe I'm tripping and we only won 2 games. I could have sworn we beat one more team that year, though. In the Lions. We beat the Lions that year, I remember. So, I already said the line, though, didn't I? Yeah, I said the line. I said Detroit. Maybe we only won 2 games. I swore we won 3. Whatever. And then that next year, I was justifying things in my mind because we were so bad in 19. Like, oh, man, yeah, we fell behind 20-0 against Arizona, but we didn't stop fighting, right? I'm coming up with moral victories and shit. You know, we would fall behind like by 20 every game, it felt like, and then battle back, but still fall short. Well, we didn't stop fighting. We were down. I think we were down 13-0 to the Giants. I believe it was 13-0 to the Giants. Then we fought back, and I want to say we had the lead 14-13, and then that's they fumbled the ball, and the Giants scooped it up and ran for the touchdown, took the lead 20-13, and that's when we went for 2. We went down. Cam Sims had the big catch in the end zone, went for 2, and didn't get it in 2020. But we fought. Remember the Lions game? We were down 24-0, and we fought back and took the lead, and then gave it up. Tied the game up rather, and then gave up the lead on that late field goal as time expired. Stupid defense. You're playing 10 yards off. All they need is 8 yards to get in the field goal range, which was stupid. That was our MO that year. Just fall behind and then wake up. That's not going to happen this year. I don't see us being awful defensively. I don't see us being a team that's going to lay eggs, not compete. Defensively, I think this is going to be a good team. I don't know, if the offense will be up to speed or not, but I expect this defense to be better. Duncan Wright, he was on one tonight. Let's see if this one's any better. Please be better. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Duncan writes, hey, love you, Lou. Just make my days off, drink worth it, plus team sucks. That one was somewhat coherent. Every word was actually spelt somewhat right, or at least close enough that we could kind of figure it out. So that's your best one of the night. Maybe you did take that sip of water, man. Just maybe you took that sip of water. Frank McLaughlin, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Frankie Baby. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, and thank you for your generosity as always. My guy, Frank, writes, Lou, aloha. Aloha, Frank. Really loved the way Tress thought of his fans when he made the jersey swap. Showing a pic, a number 5 Tress jersey. You can swap it out with a new number Tress jersey. Class act. I told you, and those jerseys are going to sell. People love Tress Way. Love him. And why wouldn't you, man? He's a fan favorite. And everything that he does is a classy move, right? I love it. I wonder what number he's going to choose. I was putting him in number 6. Sly's no longer here. Sly was 6. I'm putting him in 6. I wonder what number he's going to choose. Because 0's gone, 1's gone, 2's gone, 3's gone because McManus took 3. 4's gone, 5's gone. Obviously, he was 5. 6 is available. as far as I know. I don't think anybody's taking 6. So I think he moves to 6. Just go up one number. Nobody's wearing 7. 8's gone. 9. Do we have? No, I always do that. No one's wearing 9. That's Sonny Jurgensen's number. And then not sure if anybody has 10 or not. The last player to wear 10 was Curtis Samuel. Did somebody else take 10? What is Dax Mills' number? He's not 10, is he? He's in the teens, though. I don't think he's 10. Somebody was 10. Wasn't somebody 10 last year? I don't know what number he was. I don't know who was 10. Oh, somebody said Dante Fowler is 6. You're right. He did take 6. That's right. Oops. So he might have to go to double digits. All the single ones are gone. Gone. It'll be interesting to see what he does. But Tress is definitely a class act. I agree, Frank, man. Love Tressway. Tressway is the man. My guy, Frank. All right. Let me get to the next super chat. For some reason, my super stopped on my screen at that super chat, but I know I got more, so I'm gonna go the old-fashioned way. I'm scared to hit the refresh button because it might get rid of some of y'all super chats, and I don't want it to do that. So I'm gonna go about it this way, old school style. Haven't had to do that in a while. All right, let's see. Christopher McLaughlin, my guy Chris. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy Chris writes, "Hey Lou, what's up, Chris? Hope all is well with you and the family. Likewise, and once again, thank you for your generosity, man. Can't thank you enough." 3 questions. 1 and 2. Do you think this is the final year for both Jonathan Allen and Forrest with the team, and why or why not? And 3, who are your 5 greatest Commanders Redskins players and why? That is a tough question. Tough question. Let's go through your first 2 questions. Do you think it's the final year for both Jonathan Allen and Forrest? Why or why not? So, excuse me. It depending on how Jonathan Allen plays, it could be. Because if I'm not mistaken, after this season, I think you're good on guarantees. Like it doesn't hurt you to move on from him. And I don't think they would cut him. I think you would more so be talking about a trade at that point. That's why you drafted one of the reasons why you draft a Johnny Newton. Look, if Newton wasn't there, they wouldn't have went hunting after a defensive tackle to replace, Jonathan Allen. That wasn't their goal and their objective. He was sitting there. You don't pass on that type of talent. So this notion that, they drafted him because Jonathan Allen is this, that, and the third. No, nothing's wrong with Jonathan Allen. If he plays well this year, they're going to keep him. They're not going to move him, right? We're not hurting for cash. Last time I checked, we're not hurting for cash. We're not strapped for cash. We're not paying a quarterback anytime soon. We don't have to do anything for financial reasons or financial gain, okay? So from that standpoint, we don't have to do anything we don't want to do. So if Jonathan Allen goes out and has 9.5 sacks this season, dominates the line of scrimmage and is playing at a Pro Bowl level, he's going to be here next year. He's going to be here next year. If Jonathan Allen is doing more talking, running his mouth than he is playing on the field, and, other guys are playing better, then he might get shipped out next year. They might move on from him. I think he'll be here, personally. I think he'll be here. Now, Derek Forrest, on the other hand, he's interesting because he didn't really play last year. And so we don't really know what he is going to do and how he fits into all of this. If he comes back and he plays the way he played in 2022, he should be here. But there's a chance that he doesn't play well or he gets injured again. And at that point, he's probably gone, right? They didn't draft him. So there's a number of things that could happen with him. Both of these guys, to me, it's dependent on performance this year. That's going to ultimately decide whether those guys are back next year. If they play well, there's no reason to get rid of them. You don't have to do that, right? If they don't play well, Derek Forrest, you just don't re-sign him, right? Same thing with Cam Curl you just did. With Jonathan Allen, he's still under contract after this season. You're just done with all the guarantees. So if you decided to move on from him, there's no penalty from a cap standpoint. Or if you decided to trade him, it makes sense from that standpoint. But he's still under contract. So with Forrest, he's not, you got it. Like with Allen, you'd have to make a decision. Like, do we want to continue to move forward with him or do we want to part ways and try to get something for him when he's still got value? Whereas Forrest, you just don't have to do anything. You can just move on, right? You can just let him walk and see if he can find employment elsewhere. So again, their play on the field will determine ultimately what happens. So we'll see. As far as my 5 greatest Commanders/Redskins players, that's tough because I'm from a different era. So there are going to be a lot of old school Redskins fans that are going to have a bunch of names that I don't have, right? Because they watched more players and guys that were way more successful in, Redskins jerseys than I ever did. So I can only speak on the guys that I watched. So when you say greatest, it's favorite and greatest are 2 different, titles and descriptions. Favorite means forget about what they did on the field. How did you feel about them, right? You asked the greatest players that my 5 greatest Redskins, and these are guys that I watched. Like, I didn't watch Riggo, but you put him on any list, but I didn't watch him. Okay. So I can't really tell you about Riggo, but any, Commanders fan that is 45 and older, Riggo's on their list. Gotta be on their list. I didn't watch Art Monk a ton. I got back end of the career Art Monk. Okay. I didn't get Arthur Monk in his prime. So he wouldn't be on my list. But again, that same fan that's 45 years old or, 45 or older, definitely going to have Arthur Monk on his list. Now, I saw a ton of Darrell Green. So he's definitely on my list. 28 is, right? Watched a ton of Darrell Green. My list is going to be pretty crappy because I watched a lot of losers come through here and had strong affinity for losers. I should just do the cheap thing and pick the 5 best, that I've either watched going back into the archives as a fan and doing my, research and my history, or guys I caught the tail end of their careers and just put them on the list. That's what I should do because I really haven't watched players that should be on the list, to be honest with you. Only Darrell Green, to be honest. I'll tell you the best ones that I've seen play. But again, they wouldn't be on anybody's top 5 list other than Darrell Green, of course. So as I mentioned, Darrell Green, Chris Samuels, Trent Williams were both exceptional players. While Sean Taylor was extravagant for a short period of time, he was like a shooting star. It wasn't a large enough sample size. Right? But you can't tell me nothing. He would have been a Hall of Famer had he not, been killed. murdered. But so those three, Green, Samuels, Williams, I really don't have anything for you, man. Like, if you're talking about the guys I watch now, if I were to put together a standard list, it'd be Darryl Green, it'd be John Riggins, Art Monk, and then you probably could take your standard variety 2 hogs and call it a day, right? Now, again, if you're old enough to remember Sammy Ball or Sonny Jurgensen, knock yourself out. Clearly, I've seen neither one of them play. You know, I didn't go that far back in the archives. I've seen clips, but nothing, you know, tangible really that I can harken back to. But I've watched enough games with all of those guys in it, whether it's Russ Grimm or Joe Jacoby, who should be in the Hall of Fame, which is criminal that he's not. So, yeah, I think you could throw Joe T in there, even though I would have liked to have seen his career be a little bit longer. The man won NFL MVP, for crying out loud. When's the last time we had a skill player win league MVP? It was Joe Theismann, right? Now, I think Mosley won it maybe the year. I want to say it was the year after or the year before. I think Theismann won MVP I think he might have won it in 83, and Mosley might have won it in 82. I think. So Theismann might be the last player in our franchise's history to win league MVP. So probably could throw Joe T on that list, but my list is pretty garbage because that's the kind of play that I watched over my, you know, lifespan as a fan. It's been pretty trash. I know some of you are going to throw out some names like Chris Cooley or Santana Moss or London Fletcher, but those guys were good. They weren't great to me. My definition of great football players is different than a lot of yours. Those guys were really good for this organization, but they weren't great. Like, if I'm making a list of greatest players, I'm not putting Santana Moss. He had some really good years here, and he's a really good player here. But I'm thinking about, like, just think about Darryl Green and what he stood for and what he meant. Like, that's a guy that you put on your top 5 all-time list. Like, I'm not putting Santana Moss. Now, on your list, it could be different, right? Portis and Cooley and Moss and all those guys might be on your list. Not mine. You know, Samuels was really, really good for, you know, the 9 years that he played. He was damn good and super reliable. Same could be said for Trent Williams. Really good when he was healthy or not suspended for smoking weed. Dominant. I mean, we watched this man continue to ascend and become the best tackle in football, and he's going to be a Hall of Fame player. It just sucks that he didn't do it here, you know, for the remainder of his career. You know, Champ Bailey would have been the same thing if he didn't get traded. We saw what he was already here in Washington his first 4 years before he got traded, and then went to Denver and became the guy that we all knew he was already here, right? That's another guy that would have been on the list, Champ Bailey. But we just didn't have enough of those type of players, right? London Fletcher was really good, and there's an argument to be made that he should be in the Hall of Fame. I never looked at London Fletcher as a Hall of Fame player. And then people like to throw out his numbers, and that's cool, that's fine and dandy. I don't think he's a Hall of Fame player, especially not before. You know what? B. Mitch. Damn it. How did I forget about him? B. Mitch is on my list. He should be in the Hall of Fame too while we at it. So that's 4, right? Because I watched pretty much his entire career, Brian Mitchell's. So Darrell Green, Brian Mitchell, Chris Samuels, and Trent Williams are 4 guys. I'd have to find one more. I don't know if I could find another guy because Champ Bailey only played 4 years here. Like you can't put him on your list with just 4 years of service. Can't do it. But he's a Hall of Fame player, and he started that Hall of Fame career here. And you could tell what he was already before he left here. But anyway, I digress. It's a hell of a question. Again, if I'm talking about the guys I watched, I gave you 4 and I'd have to find another. And there's probably one more in there that I could pull, right? But if you're talking about like me going back and, the guys that I watch via, YouTube games or whatever, then I could come up with a standardized list, right? Dexter Manley could be on that list. For some of you, Charles Mann might be on that list. It's a bunch of guys that you could put on that list potentially. So anyway, interesting question. I'll say that. Jason Rogers, been a member for 23 months. You knocking on the door. You knocking on the door of that 2-year threshold. My guy, Uncle Jay, writes, Lou, after that Bears loss, I believe you were live streaming till like 3 a.m. LOL. It was bad. Bro, it's one of the most embarrassing defeats I can remember. That's when I knew officially, hey, this shit is over for Rivera, Del Rio, EB. Like, at that point, I was like, maybe EB has a chance to become the interim head coach. But even he felt like trash that night because Sam threw it like 50-something times straight. And the play calling was garbage in the first half, which is what helped the Bears build that lead. We were doing stupid shit like running it on 3rd and 4. Like we were so conservative to start the game. And then out of nowhere, after you getting your ass reamed, now you want to throw the bitch all over the field, which is what we should have been doing. The Bears came into the game with the least amount of sacks of any team in the league. And we decided we want to run the football. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, oh, my God. Don't get me started on EB, man. That Bears loss was brutal. Brutal. Not in the same way that the Titans loss in 2022 was, because, again, that was soul crushing. That ripped my heart out of my chest. I seen somebody on social media have that game, that last clip of the interception Wentz threw. And you remember, I went to bat for Wentz that offseason against Eagles fans. So for him to do that in that spot, oh my God, that took the wind out of my sails. And it reinforced what I already knew about Scott Turner, which is he sucks in situational football. All it did was make me even more incensed that we got this coordinator that can get you from 20 to 20. But once you get inside that red zone, specifically inside the 5, this guy is terrible, man. The less space he has to operate with, the less creative he is, the worse off we are offensively with this guy as the play caller. All right, let's see. Metaphor. Been a member for 32 months. Respect for Tress. Let's have a season. Learning time. I'm ready to have a season if you are. I'm ready. Like I said, I really, really like this group that they've put together, that they've assembled. And I know this defense is going to play. I'm so excited. I can't remember the last time I've been this excited about a defense. Man, you got to probably go back a ways. I'm so excited about what this defense could be this year, because I'm just so excited about the coaching staff. The level of competency that they've put together, from Ken Norton to Joe Witt Jr. and Dan Quinn and, Daryl Tapp getting a chance on the D-line. I'm anxious to see what he does there. And just looking at what they put together, man, it's a fun group. It's a fun group, and it's a really good group of young players mixed in with some veterans that I'm anxious to see how they put it all together. Lorenzo Simpson, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, Dave, for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Zoe. Right. So looking back at the last 4 years, a lesser fan couldn't survive. You're not wrong. And I know a lot of fans that didn't survive. When Ron looked shocked when we could be eliminated, I damn near broke my phone. I damn broke my phone. I hope I hope a near was over. I damn near broke my phone. I hope you didn't break your phone. I hope you did not break your phone, so. Yeah, it was rough. I'm not going to front. The last 4 years were brutal. There was, you know what kept us alive though, as fans? There was always a run. That's what always kept us like sane and grounded when shit wasn't going well. We would tell ourselves, hey, but that Rivera run is coming, bro. That first year trained us to look for a run. And the second year stamped it. And so by year 3, you was like, yo, don't worry about it. You lose 4 in a row. You're like, don't sweat it. The Rivera run is coming. We're gonna win 4 straight at some point, bro. Don't worry about it, right? And you keep telling yourself that shit until it doesn't happen. But it happened every year, right? So 2020, we were 2-7, and we won 4 in a row, and we were 6-7, and then we lost 2 straight before against Seattle and Carolina before winning the last game, and we finished 7-9, and we won the division. In 2022, we were 2-6. The season felt over. We lost to Teddy Bridgewater and the Denver Broncos before the bye week. We had Tampa Bay and the defending Super Bowl champions coming to the crib after the bye week, and Montez Sweat had broken his jaw. He was out. And so it just looked bad, man. It was like, oh, shit, this season's about to spiral out of control. Chase Young gets hurt in like the second quarter, tears his ACL. Later on, we would learn he ripped his knee to shreds, really, and tore all kinds of tendons and shit that don't even go together. And yet we still won the game. And it was our most impressive victory, you could argue, of the Rivera regime, including that Steelers game when they were undefeated. I still can't believe we beat Tampa Bay in the manner that we did. We beat them up really good. And even though we needed that long, like 9-minute drive at the end of the game with Terry making that incredible catch, how he didn't draw a penalty for hitting a defenseless receiver, I still don't know. But he still caught it anyway, even though they didn't throw the flag like they were supposed to. And we went on to win that game. I remember being pissed off because, which Rivera did the right thing, but we bitched up. I wanted 30 so bad because remember, back in those days, we didn't score 30 points. So we got to 29, and the only way Tampa Bay could remain in the game is if they blocked the extra point. I'm like, bro, who's blocking extra points, man? Like, just kick the F and X. But, with just our luck, that's the shit that would have happened. Brady would have got it, went down the field, tied the game, and we would have found an epic way to lose. So instead, they went for 2 but took a knee, which pretty much ended the game because we were up 9 at that point, 29-20. So they couldn't come back. But I wanted 30 so bad, right? And we didn't get it, but it didn't matter. We won the game. So I think it was 29-20. It was something like that. I know if we'd have kicked the extra point, we'd have had 30. Might have been 29-24, I think is what that made the score. And they didn't have enough time to drive the length of the field. And the only thing they could do was block an extra point, get 2 points for it, and then all they would need is a field goal. So whatever. It was a bitch ass move, but I get it. And then we won 4 straight, right? Got back to 6-6. And then of course we had the 5 straight games against the division. We know how that ended. We went 1-4, ended up being 7-11, or 7-10, excuse me, that season. Then 2022, we started off the season. How'd that season start? Were we 2-2? Nah. So we were 2-2 after the first 4 games. Yes, we were. Because we beat we beat Jacksonville in week 1. We lost to Detroit. Then we weren't 2-2 because we beat Jacksonville. Then we lost to Detroit. We lost to Philadelphia. Then we lost to, I'm forgetting a team in there. I feel like I'm forgetting a game. But no, that's how it went because it was Detroit. We got Chase Roulier got injured at the end of the Detroit game. And then the line fell apart against Philadelphia. The game I'm forgetting is Dallas. We lost to Dallas on the road after that. And then we got Tennessee, and we should have beat them, but we didn't. And it felt like the season was over because we were 1-4 at that point. Then we beat Chicago. Wentz breaks his finger. Heineke comes in, and we beat Chicago. We beat Indianapolis. We beat I felt like we beat somebody else too because we were on we won 3 games in a row. So it was Chicago. Somebody's in there that I'm missing. And then it was Indianapolis in that comeback game, which was crazy. Then we lost to Minnesota. We should have beat them. We really outplayed them in that game and we lost. But it set up the stage for us to beat Philly. And then we won 3 more games. So it was 6 games out of 7 that we won, right? We beat Atlanta. That's who it was. No, Atlanta was after that game. It was after the loss in Minnesota. It was Philly, Houston, and Atlanta. Those were the 3 games we won there. So I can't remember who. Green Bay. That's who it was. It was Green Bay. It was Green Bay because we beat Aaron Rodgers. I couldn't believe we beat Aaron Rodgers. That's the game that Heineke actually, I want to say, he played poorly in the first half and then he killed it in the second half. That was where the shirt came. F it, Terry's down there somewhere came from, where he just kind of closed his eyes and threw it to Terry on the sidelines on that 3rd down to clinch the game, essentially. So it was Chicago, then it was Green Bay, then it was Indy. Then we lost to Minnesota. Then we beat Atlanta. We beat Philadelphia, Houston, and Atlanta. And we were 7-5. 7-5. The playoffs were right in front of us. There's no way. We had the Giants twice in 3 weeks with a bye sandwich. There's no way we're not going to the playoffs. And the Browns sucked that year. And so it was all set up for us. And we just fumbled the bag. Anyway, I digress. You're right about a lesser fan. You know how many fans I knew that bailed on us during that stretch when things got rough? Especially last year. Last year was just brutal. Brutal. Last year was. Because you knew Rivera was done. You knew he was cooked. You knew that things are going to change. Defensively, Del Rio, everybody, EB, everybody was gone, right? And so you're just watching just because you're watching, because you watch. There was like nothing to carry over. You had Jonathan Allen talking about, like, I don't want to do this shit anymore. And you knew Sam was struggling and he was getting benched every other week. And it was a mess. This shit ain't for everybody. You know the mantra, this team ain't for everybody? Well, the last 4 years, this shit wasn't for everybody. And I know a lot of fans that couldn't take it. Door Gunner, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. I got Door Gunner. I want to say, yeah. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Door Gunner, who writes, have my season tickets, so coming up for a few games. Will definitely be at the Bucks game since it's 45 minutes from my house. Ton of Commanders fans in Tampa. You know what's crazy is that I think Commanders fans travel really well, and we're everywhere. That's one thing I've noticed. When we go on the road, there's a contingency of Commanders fans. And, sometimes I don't say we take over stadiums, but we make a lot of noise, when we show up at somebody else's establishment. So that's one thing I can say about our fan base is that we're spread out. And when teams come to their, city or close enough to within range, they show up. And I will say that. Jay Black, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Jay writes, saw a rumor. Please let me enjoy Thanksgiving. LOL. I'm not buying anything until I see that. I think we're going to be safe this year, but leave it to the NFL to say, hey, Washington's got a hot young quarterback. That'd be a ratings draw on Thanksgiving. And you know what? I could see Bears. Somebody said this before too, and I could see this shit, and I don't want it. Don't want it. I could see Bears Commanders Thanksgiving night. Couldn't you? Remember, they did this. We were the very first night Thanksgiving. No, we weren't. I'm lying. The Broncos hosted the first night Thanksgiving game. I think we were the second or the third one, but we played the Giants one year. We were awful that year too. My God, we were awful. And I remember we won that game. I want to say we picked off whomever the Giants had at quarterback and ran it back for a touchdown. And I think we won the game like either that or our quarterback threw a pick six, but we still won the game like 14-10. Kirk Cousins ended up getting a game ball that night. He didn't play well. He wasn't any good. But that was the night that he had the turkey leg, if you remember. He had the turkey leg on Thanksgiving. But yeah, that was an awful game, but we won. I could see them doing that to us. Not playing Dallas this time, but rather playing Chicago on Thanksgiving night. Normally, they like to put a rivalry game up there, like two teams in the same division, and the teams are usually like somewhat good. But they didn't do that last year. I think it was, I want to say, was it last year, Minnesota and New England? Or was that the year before? I don't know. I don't remember who was the Thanksgiving night game last year. You know what I remember most was the Black Friday game, actually. Don't even remember who the nightcap was last year. I remember that there was a Thanksgiving, a Black Friday game with the Jets and the Dolphins, and that was awful. Ugh, yikes. Yeah, just let me enjoy my Thanksgiving, period, right? You've done enough. Lorenzo Simpson, thank you for your generosity. Really, truly appreciate you gifting a membership. Shout out to the newest member of the MOBB via Lorenzo Simpson. Chipper, been a member for 5 months. Appreciate you, who writes, isn't Green coaching our DBs? Nah. I mean, we saw a clip. Somebody sent me a clip of him like doing DB drills, but he's not coaching up our DBs. Like if you head out to where he lives, or if he's around and he can show, give you a few pointers, he's doing that. But no, he's not on the staff. If you seek his help, I'm pretty sure he's willing to give it, but he's not on the staff. It's like, remember when Warren Sapp came to camp and, he was, helping out, but he wasn't actually on the staff. It's sort of like that, except I don't think these drills that we saw him performing, I don't think they actually took place at Commander's Park. I could be wrong. And he could have been out on the practice field doing that. That felt like he was at home, like, at a, local high school field working some of these dudes out. But I could be wrong. But he's not on the staff. I do know that for sure. Silver Fox 52, been a member for 27 months. Who writes, hey, Lou. What's up, Silver Fox? Thanks for bringing great content. Keep it up. I appreciate you. Thank you for the support and continuing to watch and dedicate that time, energy, and effort. Really appreciate you. I see somebody, Dorgun, killing my list. I'm telling you, the list is cheeks because I watched cheeks football for 2, 3, 4 decades. Not 4 decades, 3 decades, roughly. I watched bad football. And there was no consistency. There weren't any players you could hang your hat on for that stretch. It is what it is. My list isn't too bad, though. You know, Darryl Green and Brian Mitchell and Trent Williams and Chris Samuels, that's not a bad list. It's not the best list, but it's not terrible. But I'm telling you who I watched. Telling you who I watched. I see some names. Some guys that could easily be on that list eventually, but they're not there yet. Martin Matthews, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Double M. It's been a while, Double M. Martin Matthews, right? Say Louie. And look, every time I say it, y'all say the same thing. It's been a while. Yes, it has, Double M. Says, I'm not talking Super Bowl. Where we going with this? If you got to quantify your statement, or excuse me, qualify your statement by saying, I'm not talking Super Bowl, but I think some reckless behavior is about to take place. But if the O-line holds true, I think we will have an awesome season. Okay, you didn't say anything too wild. You didn't say anything too wild there. If the O-line holds, and like I said, I think the O-line doesn't have to be great for the offense to be dynamic. They just got to be solid. And I think if the play calling is good, the execution is good, and guys do what I think they're capable of doing, and the play calling is good, and the variety is good, I think it's going to protect Jaden Daniels, and it's going to allow the offense to be really solid. We'll see. All right. So that was the last super chat. And so that is going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. This weekend is going to be interesting because we'll have the schedule next week, and we're going to have some content probably come out over the weekend with these rookies. Again, it's not much, right? You're just excited to see guys showing up, see what they look like out there. I know you guys saw Luke McCaffrey and Ian, I'm about to call him Ian Book. Lord have mercy. Jesus, what's my man from Notre Dame? Why am I blanking on Sam Hartman? I know y'all saw Sam Hartman and Luke McCaffrey show up together at the facility. Jaden Daniels, you saw him, stepping up, stepping out, getting up there to the facility. So I've been taking a look at. I'm not gonna lie. I found myself getting excited today. I saw, a bunch of pictures, Frankie Louvu working out with Bobby Wagner, and I'm just thinking to myself, Frankie Louvu and Bobby Wagner are on my favorite team, especially Bobby Wagner, right? I'm just like, bro, this defense is fixing to be lit. Like, I'm looking at Bobby Wagner taking a knee, stretching, talking to Frankie Louvu. He's tatted up everywhere. Pause. And I'm like, yo, this defense is about to be crazy. Stupid. Dumb. Nice. Whatever adjective you want to use to describe it. It's finna be crazy. And I found myself getting I said, man, what are you doing? It's May, bro. Get out of here. And I had to douse my face with some cold water and wake myself up. Tripping in May. Yeah, I know. Wilding. Anyway, I digress. Swaggy P, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Swaggy P. Thank you. Who writes, just moved back to the East Coast a couple of months ago, North Carolina. All right, what's up? I'm used to always going to road games out west. Now I'm excited to finally go to more home games. you might have felt more at home on those road games than you might at home at these home games. You've probably been to a home game before, but I'm hoping that changes this year. He says Moss, Fletcher, Taylor, Cooley, and Stephen Davis are my faves. So let's look at that list. Moss is solid. Again, anybody that's got Moss on their list, you're probably a younger fan, which is cool. I don't have any issues with that. He was a really good receiver here, but let me look at his numbers real quick. Y'all know I hate when y'all send me down these, you send me down this rabbit hole. I'm very easily sent down a rabbit hole. I think Santana only had 2,000-yard seasons here. 3 at the most. I might be tripping. But I know he had, now those were some big ones. One of them was 1,400 yards, I believe, right? But I don't think he had 2. And he had a bunch of really good seasons. But let me check. I could be tripping. He might have had like 4. And I might just I might be really disrespecting Santana for real. I might be just really tripping. Let me see. All right. He had 3,000-yard seasons in Washington. The 1,483 was the 2005 season, which we all remember. That was the Monday Night Miracle against Dallas. He was awesome that year. That was the one year, right? Then he had a 1044 in 08 and 11-15. But you look at the rest of these years, they were solid. And I get it, the quarterback play wasn't great and yada, yada, yada. But he only had 3,000-yard seasons, guys and gals. Like, it's not like he was out here killing it year after year. Terry already has more 1,000-yard seasons than Santana. Now, none of his 1,000-yard seasons is even close to that 1,483 that Santana poured in 05. But 1044 and 11-15, Terry's got seasons on his docket that look like that. And he's got a plethora of them, and they're all in a row at that. So, yeah, like I said, Santana was really good. Don't get me wrong. Santana Moss is, I think some of you guys have made him out to be something more than what he really was, right? He was really good. Don't get me wrong. But again, I wouldn't put him on my list. But again, your list is your list. Fletcher, I get Fletcher. And my issue with Fletch is that he had a long career, and I'd say he played the most years of anywhere in his career here. But if you total all the years, I think it's an equal amount here that he spent in both Buffalo and the Rams combined, right? Let's check. That's my problem with him, is similar to Champ Bailey. Like, I know what Champ Bailey ended up being, but he just didn't play along enough years here. I don't necessarily think that's the case for Fletch, because I think he played at least 7 years in Washington. I think. I could be wrong about that. Feel like he did. But he also played like 4 years with the Rams and then another 3 or 4 with Buffalo before he got to Washington. So let's see. Again, I could be wrong about that. So he spent his first 4 years in St. Louis with the Rams. Then he spent the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years in Buffalo. So that's 9 total years before he even got here. And he spent the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, he spent more years, 7, which is what I thought, in Washington total than he did in any of those stops individually. But you couple those 2 stops together, it's 9 years there in those 2 stops together in St. Louis and Buffalo, and then 7 here. Now, again, I'm nitpicking. Guy's an Ironman, never missed a game in his career, 16 games in every year of his career. And yeah, look, man, he put up some numbers. If you wanted to put London Fletcher in there, I wouldn't balk at that. I got no issues with London. I like London. And the fact that there's a Hall of Fame case to be made for him, even though I don't think he should be in, speaks to how good he was in his career. And so I have no issues with London Fletcher being on anybody's list. Taylor, again, just too small of a sample size. Love him to death, though. You know how I feel about him. Cooley, again, really good player, but how many 1,000-yard seasons did Chris Cooley have? I'm going to say Chris Cooley had 1. If you know what, I'm going to say Chris Cooley had no 1,000-yard seasons. Matter of fact, none. That's what I'm going to say. No 1,000-yard season. I might be tripping about that. I think he had no 1,000-yard seasons. That's my guess. Chris Cooley, as I used to call him. Yeah, no 1,000-yard seasons for Chris Cooley. I didn't think so. Because, first of all, people forget how hard it is for a tight end. Now that we've seen Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews and Kyle Pitts and all of these tight ends put up these ridiculous, robust numbers, we're thinking, oh, yeah, that's what you do. No, 1,000 yards for a tight end is crazy. That's not commonplace. Chris Cooley had 5 seasons over 700 yards. Never had a season over 900 yards. His highest total season, he had twice 849 yards receiving. So, yeah. He was really good. He wasn't great again. And then Stephen Davis. Love me some Stephen Davis, but again, very small sample size. What did he play his first 4 years here? Then we didn't re-sign him, and he went to Carolina, I think, after he left here. Let's check on Stephen Davis. He did have that 1,405-yard season in 1999. There's always that, but I think that was his only like dominant year here. He might have had some other good years. Let's check. His biggest claim to fame for a long time here was getting punched in the face by Michael Westbrook. I think his best years might have come in Carolina. I don't know if he ever had a year better than that 1999 season rushing, but he probably had 2,000-yard seasons in Carolina. I don't think he had 2,000-yard seasons in Washington. I could be wrong about that. Let's check. Told you was sending me down a rabbit hole. All right. I lied. I lied bad. Very badly. Now, I lied about two things. One, Stephen Davis had 3 consecutive seasons over 1,300 yards in Washington. So I was straight tripping. 2, 1,405, which I knew of 1999. I forgot about 2000. He had 1318, and he had 356 carries in 2001. That's crack numbers. But you know what? I didn't think about. That's Marty Schottenheimer. Why wouldn't he have 356 carries? Marty Schottenheimer. Yikes. Zoink scoop. That was a career high. 1,432 yards that year. That was a career high. Then he went to Carolina in 2003. His first year there, he had 1,444 yards rushing that year. That was his career high. So Stephen Davis, I apologize, had some massive years in Washington. That 3-year stretch, including 99, where he set the franchise record for rushing yards with 1,405. He had 17 rushing touchdowns that season. He was a beast, man. Stephen Davis was a beast. Love me some Stephen Davis. I didn't realize he had 3 years like that in a row. I knew there might have been a second in there, not 3, and I thought it might have been spread out. He had 3 in a row. So I apologize to Stephen Davis. That was a nice little run Stephen had. Let's check. Let me check Clinton Portis's stats while I'm at it, just to see if Stephen got him since we're already here, because Clinton had some good years, but I don't know if Clinton ever had 3 years like that. He had 2 like that in Denver in a row. I don't think he ever did that in Washington in a row. I could stand corrected like I did with Stephen Davis. Let's check and see. So, yeah, he had 2. So, shit. All right. Yeah, never mind. Yeah, Clinton had some years here. So, the first 2 years in Denver were stupid. 2 1,500-yard seasons in a row. And that's why we traded for him. And that was the Champ Bailey deal, which to me, we still got fleeced. How do you trade Champ Bailey and add a second-round pick for Clinton Portis? This is not the 1970s or 80s where the running back position is the dominant position. What the hell are you thinking, giving up a second-rounder in addition to Champ Bailey? Are you on crack? That was ridiculous, but I digress. Then he comes to Washington. Joe Gibbs' first season. Obviously, he traded for Portis, and he got 1,315 yards. Now, only 5 touchdowns. In Denver, he had 15 touchdowns rushing his first season and 14 the next year. So 29 touchdowns total his first 2 seasons. He comes to Washington. He rushes for 1,315 yards, but only 5 touchdowns. But that second year, 05, which is when we made that run to the playoffs, we rode his back. And 1,516 yards for Portis that year and 11 scores. He was outstanding. Then he got injured in 06. That was the year he got injured in the preseason. After an interception, making a tackle, he was never really right that year. So he didn't have a big season that year, and he missed a bunch of games. Then he bounced back in 07. That's the other year that we made the run to the playoffs with Todd Collins when Sean Taylor got murdered. 325 carries that year for 1,262 yards and 11 touchdowns. So that was another big year. Then 08 was his second best season in Washington. 342 carries, 1,487 yards, and 9 touchdowns that year. His 1,516 yards, I think, is a franchise record. Let me check Alfred Morris's rookie season to make sure that he didn't eclipse that. I don't know why I keep giving Alfred Morris a 1,600-yard rushing season. I don't know why I keep doing that shit. But for some reason, 2012 feels like 1,600 yards. Remember, I used to go, wake up, wake up, wake up. It's Alfred Morris. You had to be back in the day for that one, right? Let me check AM, man. Alfred Morris. See, you done sent me down a damn rabbit hole. Damn you, Swaggy P. Let's see. I knew it. I knew that 2012. I don't know. I said, damn it. It felt like he broke Clinton's record and he had 1,600 in that rookie season. He did. 335 carries, 1,613 yards for Alfred Morris and 13 touchdowns. It was that last game against Dallas that did it when he ran for 2 bills on a stinking ass in that closeout win or go home game. He was spectacular. 1,613 yards for AM. He had a little run there too. 3 years of over 1,000, but you could tell after the Robert Griffin III juice wore off, he went from 16 to 12 to 1,000, and then 750, and then he ended up in Dallas, and that was pretty much it. He didn't start bouncing around. Dallas, San Francisco, Arizona, and then the Giants. So yeah, he had a little run there, but Clinton is by far and away the best back we had. He had 4,000-yard seasons and some big ones too, I may add. Steven had a stretch though. Those 3 years in a row, Clinton didn't do it in succession. It was 2, a gap, and then 2 more. Steven did it 3 years in a row with some big numbers. Alfred did it 3 years in a row, but his numbers weren't as robust. And a lot of what Alfred got, because he was a basic back, he was our guy, but let's be honest, Alfred Morris was a regular, standard, standard service weapon, right? Okay, there were no extra attachments to Alfred Morris. He was your standard issue running back, but Robert Griffin III and his threat of running the football opened up some gaping holes for Alfred, and he exploited them. That's for sure. So yeah, Davis, Fletcher, yeah, those are pretty legit. Those were pretty legit. Moss was solid, as I told you already. He was solid. All right. Frank McLaughlin, my guy, Frankie baby. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. My guy, Frank writes, super excited about it this year, except O-line Bobby Johnson. Me too, man. I'm not too convinced about O-line Bobby Johnson. That boy scares me. The Giants lines were so bad under him. And again, I was looking for Bills fans to come and tell me, hey, He was good in Buffalo, man. Or he was all right in Buffalo. They was like, nah, we was ready for him to go too. I was like, damn. I just wanted somebody to make me feel better about that shit. Like just one fan base to be like, yo, he won't that bad when he was in Buffalo. I didn't get that. I was looking for somebody to back me up, somebody to tell me, hey, bro, he was all right, so I could feel better about it. Didn't get that. Didn't get it. So we'll see. Hey, look, third time's the charm. That's what I'm telling myself. The constant optimist that I am. Third time's the charm for O-line Bobby Johnson. Third time's the charm. Third time's the charm. C Trail says nothing basic about 1,600 yards. Ain't nothing basic about 1,600 yards. But if you took Robert Griffin III and what we remember, what they brought into the league, the Shanahans brought into the league in 2012 was innovative at the time because that was some college football shit. That pistol, teams weren't doing that shit in the NFL. Teams weren't running pistol in the NFL. So what they were able to do with Robert Griffin III, game changer, okay? They put together an offense that was so tough to stop, and because of Robert's legs, it made Alfred Morris that much more deadly. He would go 5-6 yards down the field before he even had to elude a defender, and we know Alfred wasn't really making nobody miss. Now, he would run through guys, but Alfred Morris wasn't an elusive bat. And he'd go 4, 5, 6 yards without even contact, without even having to worry about a defender. That's how much space was created by Griffin and the threat of him using his legs. You had ends that we wouldn't even block, that wouldn't even come down the line to try to get Alfred Morris, and he'd run right by them because they were so preoccupied with 10. Yeah, 1,600 ain't nothing to scoff at, and Alfred was excellent that year. Don't get me wrong, but if we just had a traditional offense under center, you're handing it to Alfred Morris, ain't no way he rushed it for 1,600 yards. And I think the 2 years that followed after that were proof of that, because even the next year when Robert wasn't as big of a threat to run, you saw that number come way down to 1,200. And then the year after that, it came down to 1,000 when Robert wasn't running at all. And he wasn't even in the lineup. It was Kirk Cousins. It was Colt McCoy. So you saw that number come way down to 1,000. Anyway, I digress. Somebody said Stephen Davis was a beast on Madden. Yeah, he was. He was damn sure good on Madden. Anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on this installment of the Command Post Live. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys next week. We're going to have a lot of content next week. Schedule's coming out, man. That's the last big thing that we've got this offseason is the schedule release. And then after that, kind of just twiddling your thumbs waiting on training camp. So this will be one of the last things that we've really got to discuss. Looking forward to that. If I have anything that I can think of that I want to ask you guys, you may get a video out of me, to hold you over for the weekend. If not, then happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. We love you. Thank you so much for your contributions and all that you do for us. We can't thank you enough, moms. Continue being great and continue to be the backbone of our existence. Thank you, moms. Happy Mother's Day to all of you out there. Until next time, I'm your man, Louie T, saying, God bless. Good night.